Welcome back to r/Landlords from Hell, where we read stories about the worst landlords imaginable, and maybe after hearing these stories you feel a little better about your own landlord. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And today's XXL story is titled "The absolutely worst human being I have personally encountered was my landlord for 3 months." This is quite a long one. I will say from the start, she does not get nearly what she deserves, but she doesn't get away scot-free either. This all started when I moved to a new state with my then girlfriend, who we shall call N. She is not important to the story itself, but is part of the background leading to the chaos. So, as those things often go, it ended less than 2 months after we moved and she dipped out for a mutual coworker she had only known for 2 weeks. I have suspicions about things that may have happened, but it is not relevant either. I ended up being stuck in an apartment with a girl I was still in love with and having to watch her flaunt around and get ready for dates with someone else, on top of having to work at the same place as her and her new boyfriend. It massively, throbbingly sucked. I suppose no pun intended there. During that time I was venting about it all on an app called Whisper and made a new friend who shall hereon be called Froggy, as their randomly generated name on the app was FroggyPizza33, which ended up being their permanent nickname. We became very close very quickly and she was like a sister to me within 2 months. It was one of those friendships that just click, you know? Around July 2018 she offers to help me get a new job because a friend of hers worked at a company that was hiring, and this hiring sessions class would be going directly to working from home instead of waiting 6 months and working on site. As someone who didn't have a car at the time, this excited me immensely. I got the job thanks to the reference, but as the 1-bedroom apartment I was in did not have a space for me to work from, since I had given up the bedroom to the ex, I was in a difficult position. I could have used the laundry room, but the inspectors told me I would have to have the washer and dryer taken out in order to be acceptable and usable. It was a very frustrating situation, truth be told. But then Froggy told me she had a detached garage on her property with a huge half-studio apartment above it, full bathroom, large space, entirely private, and if I wanted it, it was mine. She felt bad about my situation, and after talking to her husband, they both wanted to help me out. I was invited over, got to look at the space, and was immediately sold. She told me she would help me get my stuff moved in from the old apartment, help me transport everything, make sure I had a ride to and from work during my 6 weeks of training, and was helping me get my workspace set up. There wasn't a kitchen, but I was welcome to use theirs until she was able to buy a butcher table / electric stove top / etc. to put in the room, and there was already a full-size French door fridge and sink. We had an additional agreement that so long as I helped out around the house and helped cook every now and then, I wouldn't have a food bill, as she would take care of it for me. To me, this was an absolute dream. I love cooking for other people and it would significantly help me financially. The rent was roughly $300 per month plus utilities, and we had multiple conversations about what was wanted and expected about helping out. It was not a requirement, but it was appreciated, and I was so grateful for everything they had done that I wanted to bend over backwards in return as much as I could. And guys, what is one of the #1 lessons in life? If something seems too good to be true, then you better be careful. The relationship started out fine, with us balancing, her being both my landlord and my friend, and I was doing some extra deep cleaning for her over a free weekend for some extra money. I was enjoying my job, we were getting along great still, and I was cooking roughly twice a week. She had a stepson who was largely innocent in all the drama that would later happen, but did unfortunately get caught in the crossfire. See, he played football and the high school he played for was not technically the high school he was supposed to be going to. But they had a tiny crappy apartment in a zip code 20 minutes away that was in the correct zip code, and even though they never stayed in it, they had been renting it for about $200 per month for a while and never stepped foot in it, they told the school that they did. Due to some kind of drama or school rivalry I'm not privy to, an investigation was being launched and someone was going to be coming by the apartment to essentially do a wellness check and verify that the stepson was actually living there. I spent a full day helping Froggy, her husband, and the athletics director of the stepson's current high school move stuff into that crap hole and make it look lived in. At the time I had no issues with her or any of this, it was my day off and I had offered to help. Shortly after, I started working from home at the new job and I absolutely loved it. All I did was answer calls all day, resolve issues the best I could and browse Reddit in between. I could do schoolwork if I wanted as well, as long as I was doing my job, that is all that mattered. It was and still is the best job I've ever had. But the relationship with Froggy was quickly deteriorating. I cannot, even now, quite pinpoint when everything changed, but I was slowly being given crap for not doing something right, missing a spot while cleaning, etc. I was repeatedly given crap for missing a pile of dog crap somewhere in the house because her dogs were supposedly trained to go on the pee pads but almost never did. And I was expected to magically know that one of the dogs crawled under the damn piano and took a dump. Ridiculous things. I was given crap for hanging up shirts facing the wrong way or not knowing that a specific shirt/article of clothing goes in a specific drawer or place or belongs to a specific person when her husband and stepson had identical pieces of clothing, in other words football team branded shirts that were within a size of each other and looked exactly the same. I was essentially being treated like a live-in maid even though I paid the rent. The topic of me not doing enough extra work came up and me still being the grateful and far too nice to say anything person I was went along with it. Rent was increased to $500 per paycheck, totaling around $1,000 a month in exchange for me not cleaning. Oh, but I was still cleaning and I was given crap anytime I didn't and was still harassed for not doing enough. Our friendship was deteriorating rapidly and by November it had all come to a head. Froggy and I had a huge argument and I was worrying that I would be evicted. I at that moment did not fully understand tenant rights, but that was quickly rectified. About 3 weeks before, her mom had fallen and hurt her knee and I had been going out of my way to use my personal paid work breaks and lunch breaks to go over to the house and help her 77-year-old mom use the restroom and get back into bed. I took my breaks when I received a text from one of them requesting my assistance. I worked my availability around their needs during my free time to help her take care of her mom because she couldn't, or wouldn't, she repeatedly talked down to and about her mom. I cancelled a doctor's appointment I had made weeks before and told Froggy about multiple times because she scheduled an appointment that same day and nobody would be home to watch her mom. I made her and her husband aware that the Wednesday/Thursday/Friday of Thanksgiving week I would be staying at the house of the girl I was seeing and would be unavailable. I informed them out of respect because I knew I was relied upon for assistance with the mom and wanted to give them time to have a replacement. The night I left, the previously mentioned huge fight, which for the record was about me hanging a shirt facing the wrong direction and how stupid could I possibly be to not get that right. And I said that we both, note just her, needed to take a step back and so I was going to leave and I would be back Friday morning. I always kept a cool head because I knew nothing could or would be solved with anger. I enjoyed my time away, I cooked her and her dad Turkey Day dinner and when I came back Friday morning, my apartment door was unlocked. I could have sworn I locked it, I always did, and when I walked inside I knew someone else had been in there. Boxes were tossed and overturned, drawers were left open and very clearly gone through, I had clothes and other items missing, etc. I was later certain she had been looking for my medication as I am severely ADHD and prescribed a pill that is commonly abused and very popular with college kids. I'm sure you catch my drift. So I work my shift and when I get off I called my mom for advice. She got her lawyer friend on the phone who then proceeded to yell at me for being an idiot and not immediately calling the police and said to stop being a damn moron and call the damn cops. When they arrived I told the officer that I wasn't sure who did it and it is all small stupid stuff missing, nothing incredibly valuable, but that the door was locked when I left and whoever did it must have had a key. He then asked me if it was okay for him to talk to them them about why he is here, and I explicitly said, no, that is only going to cause issues. So of course he did anyways, and apparently gave them the impression that I called the cops on them. Froggy and her husband. Never did actually file the police report I wanted though. A couple hours later, Froggy was banging on my door while I was in the shower. She knocked twice and then decided to let herself in whilst I started shouting that she cannot enter my apartment without my permission. She threw the door open, said she can do whatever I want, and tossed a piece of paper on the floor and said, "You've been served." I at the time was post-shower and therefore not wearing clothes, so I was peeking out from the bathroom door. She left and I then relocked the door and barricaded the door. The paper she threw down? It was a 3-day notice to quit, the kind that police officers use to get rid of someone who is running a meth lab in an apartment, for example. She had hand-typed it up and said that I was smoking weed, intentionally destroyed property. In other words, the 15-year-old washing machine and dishwasher that stopped working about 2 months after I moved in. Left a heat lamp on that almost burned down the house and hurt her mother. Upon reading this, especially the last bit, I was livid. I bent over backwards to help you with your mom, and you are going to say I effing hurt her? Oh damn no. I had her husband on recording after the last time I ever helped her mother use the restroom, thanking me for everything I had done and commenting on how wonderfully helpful I had been. I record everything because I had a mom who taught me to cover my ass from a very young age. As for the heat fan, I grew up in Florida. I had no idea what a heat fan is, and if I heard a fan go on in the bathroom, I would absolutely assume it was just a ventilation fan. Not to mention, if leaving a heat fan on for an hour was going to burn a house down, then it was not wired properly, and that is on you. So we got a lawyer involved, and as there was no written lease, it was a rough go. I had proof of rent payments, everything was done through a bank called Chime, and I notated each payment as rent per month of X. My work address was that property, and as I had been working from home, I could easily prove consistent residence from X date. This dumbass kept adding fuel to our fire though, as for the next 2 weeks it was a non-stop harassment from her. She threw shoes at my door at all hours of the night, stomped up and down my stairs, yelled and screamed through my door, would come up to the door just to rattle the doorknob as hard as she could, and sent me disgusting vile text messages constantly. If wanted, I will post screenshots somewhere for you all to see. Things like, "How does your mom's kitty taste? Man, sure didn't get arrested again. Guess your mommy was wrong, boy. Keep it up." It was non-stop. I called the police on her 31 times in a 10-day span, and on one of those instances she got permission from her lawyer to change the lock on my door. I had changed the deadbolt out because she kept letting herself in illegally, and I explained to her multiple times that she would need a court order to change my deadbolt, as she would need to enter my premises to do so. And I would not be letting her in. She would just scream, "Wrong, dead wrong, no I don't," at anything I said about landlord/tenant laws. She did not change my deadbolt, she destroyed it from the outside. Every person I had shown the pictures to has agreed that it looks like someone was trying to break in, not change a lock. She took a metal bat to the door and beat the deadbolt in until it was tilted downwards, and then drilled through it until the lock snapped. I called the police again that night and they did nothing, despite explaining that lock was mine and she just destroyed my personal property. I quickly got deadbolt latches for the inside of my door to keep her out still, and her response to that was to turn off my water and electricity, also entirely illegal, and she would repeatedly deny she ever did it the moment the cops showed up, when everything is magically working again. It finally came to a head when the day after she had destroyed my deadbolt, the fire alarm under my apartment was beeping the low battery noise. She demanded access to my apartment, which I obviously denied and legally was entirely able to, as my fire alarm was perfectly fine, and attempted to drill through my door again at 11 PM on a Tuesday. This time, having learned from my previous mistakes of not having proof, recorded every single moment of the encounter. I had on video her screaming, "I'm coming in, you better call him back and tell him to hurry, I'm coming in." She genuinely wasn't. I had 7 deadbolt latches with 8-in wood screws installed and a massive wooden entertainment display center up against the door. and you could hear the drill going and see the utterly destroyed deadbolt rattling while she continued to scream. This ended up being what finally got her arrested, criminal harassment on her own property, as I had her on video very obviously being the one drilling through the door. She had apparently told the police officer that I was the one doing it, not her. She went to jail that night, got out on bail 6 AM the next morning and was back in handcuffs for aggravated assault by 2 PM. See, my mom had been planning to come out to see me for a couple of months, and with everything going on, that trip had instead become a "get me into a new place and away from the psychotic Twatwaffle" mission. Froggy, aka Twatwaffle, had been well aware of this, so she decided to try and blockade her driveway with her car parked sideways, and when my mom pulled onto the property, this absolute twat walked out with a gun. She pointed it at my mom and screamed at her to leave because she was trespassing. Now, as I had already repeatedly explained to her by then, as I am legally a tenant with or without a written lease, people who come to visit me are not trespassing, and she cannot tow, remove or in any way damage their cars. This woman was well and truly a piece of work. I don't have words to quite express my absolute disgust and hatred for her. So I do get moved into a new place and we are pursuing charges against her. The case for criminal harassment is rock solid. 2 weeks worth of harassing text messages, video and audio recordings, 31 police calls for her, throwing crap at my door, etc. Now, unfortunately, my friends, she gets away with all of that, legally speaking. The DA dropped the charges for criminal harassment because she wanted to pursue the more serious offense, and the judge ruled during the preliminary hearing that as Froggy pointed the gun at my mother for less than 10 seconds, it was not aggravated assault. I was absolutely livid after this, 3 months of waiting for this hearing, and it was all for nothing. Though I did get to finally find out how angry she was about my petty revenge. See, while I was moving out, she stole multiple items from me. She stole a $250 Keurig, a $300 printer, a $700 electric bike, a $400 Dyson Hot Plus Cool Link fan, and shattered multiple mugs that had intense sentimental value to me. So I responded in kind. She had left all kinds of furniture that her grandfather had carved and built by hand, paintings and artwork that had intense meaning to her. Hell, she had a tattoo of one of them, a little teddy bear she had from when she was a kid and was one of the last presents she had left from her grandfather. I destroyed every last bit of it. I snapped and broke all the furniture, shattered the frames and glass and shredded the artwork and took the bear and burned it to a crisp. I took a hammer and shattered every individual tile in the floor that she and her husband had so painstakingly laid by hand, and did the same in the shower they built with the stepson. I left rotten food from the fridge soaking in the toilet and the tank and destroyed every possible thing I could. Then, shortly after moving into my new place, I get a call from a private investigator. Remember all the stuff with her stepson's school and football? Yeah, there was an official investigation being launched by, I think, the TTSSA, something like that. I don't entirely remember the abbreviation. And the private investigator wanted to know if I had seen the husband and son living at the house or not. Oh boy, was I ready. I gave him a written and recorded statement on what exactly their schedule was, where they keep their cars, how often they are at the main house, how I helped them make that apartment look lived in, and who had helped give them a heads up, provided screenshots of text messages showing that they would be at the house and were staying the night, and how I needed to be careful walking around upstairs in the main house so I did not wake her husband. I gave him the nail in the coffin with a smile on my face, and I would do it again. It sucks that her kid was caught in the crossfire. He was actually a good football player, but he just may have gotten effed over too. Did I mention we also had an investigation launched for elderly abuse, and her mom got removed from the house and placed in a nursing home? The woman was a sweetheart and did not deserve to be caught up in this. So I left out quite a bit still, like how her husband tried to run me down with his truck, and I had 8 minutes of a voice recording where he was threatening me, trying to antagonize me into fighting him, which didn't work because you cannot anger someone who doesn't care about your opinion. And when that didn't work, tried to lock me out of my apartment by locking the stairwell door. The police officer, he decided to park right next to the only path that led to my door and sat waiting to try and intimidate me, so of course I called them immediately. That showed up was in disbelief over that, because how can someone actually be that stupid? Or how her husband banned the girl I was seeing from visiting me because he thought she stole something from them. A little belly button piercing was found outside and nobody knew how it got there, but it belonged to Froggy. And she wasn't allowed on his property, despite the fact that I am an adult, not your kid, and a rent-paying tenant that can have whomever I want in my apartment. But this fairly well summarizes the crap that I dealt with for 3 months and why she didn't get the justice she truly deserved. I did get my petty revenge. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.